When we think about human evolution, the story seems pretty simple, right? A nice, straight line from some ancient ape-like ancestor all the way up to us. But what if that whole story is wrong? What if our family tree isn't a single sturdy trunk, but more like a tangled mess of branches, some that grew strong and some that just broke off and vanished? We have all seen this picture. It's that classic march of progress. The one, it's clean, it's tidy, and it puts us, modern humans, right at the end of the line, like we're the grand prize. It makes it feel like this perfectly neat story where one species just hands the baton to the next. But here's the thing. What if that's not the real story? What if our past is less like a neat and tidy march and more like a messy, sprawling epic, with lost chapters, mysterious characters, and entire groups of people who just disappeared without a trace? Well, that's the real story we're going to dig into. So let's start with our most famous and maybe most misunderstood relatives, the Neanderthals. These guys were around for hundreds of thousands of years, totally dominating the landscape. And then, poof, around 40,000 years ago, they just vanished from the fossil record. So where'd they go? For a long, long time, science had two main ideas. The first theory is pretty dramatic. We, Homo sapiens, showed up on the scene and either we were just better at finding food or maybe we wiped them out. But the second theory is a little different. Maybe they didn't really disappear at all. Maybe they just blended in, absorbed into our much, much bigger population. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the genetic evidence is in, and it's clear modern humans and Neanderthals, we got together for thousands of years. This totally blows up that simple wiped out story, because in a very real sense, a part of them never left. They actually live on, right now, inside many of us. We even have the physical proof. Just look at this quote about the school-eye child's skull. The paleoanthropologist Anne Dambercourt-Molasse basically says the top of the skull looks like us, a modern human, but the jaw, that's classic Neanderthal. You can't get much clearer proof of a hybrid than that. It's a literal snapshot of two human groups becoming one. But you still gotta ask, why did Neanderthals have that distinctive face in the first place? Their big, wide noses, their projecting jaws. Scientists have been scratching their heads about this for years. Was it all for a stronger bite? Or maybe to survive the freezing cold? Or was it for something else entirely? Well, this is so cool. Using computer simulations, scientists finally got some answers. They tested all three big ideas. A stronger bite? Nope, the data just wasn't there. Warming up cold air? Well, yeah, it helped a bit, but believe it or not, we're actually better at it. But high energy needs? Ding, 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 we have a winner. Their massive noses could pull in almost twice the air we can, fueling a body that was built for a really tough, high-octane life in the Ice Age. And this just shows you how deep these differences go. We're talking right down to the genetic code. Now, this looks a little complex, but the idea is actually pretty simple. In this incredible experiment, scientists took a Neanderthal gene, one called SOX9, and put it into zebrafish embryos. And the result? It supercharged the growth of cartilage that forms the jaw. It's just amazing proof that the unique Neanderthal face wasn't some accident. It was literally written into their DNA. Okay, so let's shift gears now. Let's jump across the world and thousands of years into the future. Because this whole pattern of populations just disappearing, well, it wasn't a one-time thing with the Neanderthals. Another huge mystery was unfolding. Recent genetic work in South America has uncovered something stunning. It's a complete break in the human story. We're talking about entire populations that were living there for millennia, and then they're gone. And they left absolutely no trace in the DNA of modern indigenous peoples. It's like they were completely and utterly replaced. Just look at this timeline. It's staggering. We see humans there 14,000 years ago. Fast forward to about 6,000 years ago, and you've got these distinct, genetically isolated groups like the Checha people in Colombia. And then a genetic reset. The original people vanish, and totally new groups sweep down from the north to take their place. So what on earth happened? Well, the answer seems to be something called the paradox of purity. Think about it. For thousands of years, these groups lived pretty much on their own, in genetic isolation. Now that's great for preserving your unique traits, but it also makes you incredibly fragile. By not mixing with other people, you lose the genetic diversity you need to fight off a new disease or adapt to a big change in the environment. And so you can see how it probably happened. First, that isolation leads to a really weak collective immune system. Then, some natural event comes along, maybe a new virus they've never seen before, and these vulnerable populations just collapse. And finally, healthier, more genetically diverse groups from the north just move in. They fill the empty space. And there's no evidence of a continent-wide war. It was a biological succession, not some violent invasion. So here's the really crucial point. These two stories, the Neanderthals in Eurasia and the first peoples of South America, they completely force us to tear up that old straight-line model of human history. It's just not how it worked. And this quote just sums it up perfectly. Our history isn't some nice, neat, unbroken chain. It's fractured. It's a story where branches grow, they thrive for a while, and then they just snap off and disappear forever. And when you put them side by side, you can really see this new model. For the Neanderthals, it was disappearance by absorption. Their genetic stream just flowed into our much larger river. But for those ancient peoples of the Americas, it was disappearance by replacement. Their stream dried up completely, and a whole new river flowed in to take its place. Two totally different paths to the same end. Which really brings us to this powerful idea, the ship of Theseus. You know the paradox. If you replace every single plank on a ship over time, is it still the same ship at the end? Well, our history is just like that. Over millennia, planks get replaced, parts are swapped out, populations blend and vanish. It makes you ask, are we still the same ship? Is humanity a single fixed thing, or are we just this constantly changing patchwork of ancestors? See, this new fractured view of our past doesn't really give us any easy answers. Instead, it leaves us with a much bigger and way more profound question. If our very DNA is a mosaic, a collection of peoples who were absorbed and peoples who were replaced, then what does it actually mean to be human?